We're living in an age where we have just an incredible amount of data. We can track weather, we can sequence genomes, we can monitor pretty much anything in real time. And in agriculture, that means we have more intelligence about things like crop diseases than we've ever had before. So you'd think our crops would be safer than ever, right? Well, that's where the story gets complicated. And that brings us to the real central question of this whole explainer. With all of this amazing high-tech surveillance, why are we still losing the fight against these ancient threats? How is it possible that farmers who are following the absolute best advice available are still watching their fields just wither away? It's a fascinating and, frankly, a really urgent puzzle.
So this really sets up the core conflict perfectly. On one hand, you've got this massive intelligence network. I mean, think about it. Over 21,000 samples, real-time tracking across an entire continent. It's just staggering. But on the other hand, the problem's not going away. And this makes it crystal clear that the issue isn't a lack of data. The real gap, the one we're really facing, is between knowing what's happening and being able to do something about it fast enough. It's a problem of institutional design.
And this, right here, is the heart of the paradox. We have 21st century data collection literally running up against 20th century decision-making processes. And in this race, well, timing is absolutely everything. So let's meet our antagonist, Phytophthora infestans. It's the pathogen that causes late blight, and it operates on a terrifyingly fast clock. In just 3 to 5 days, you can actually see the damage. By day 5, it's already reproducing, and in about a week, the entire disease cycle is complete, and it's ready to start all over again, spreading like wildfire. This isn't some slow-moving threat. It's a biological blitzkrieg. This single sentence just says it all, doesn't it? A pathogen doesn't care about our quarterly reports or our approval processes. It doesn't check the calendar for our next scheduled meeting. It just acts. And our systems for responding, well, they often do have to wait for that next meeting. To see what happens when this mismatch in timing plays out in the real world, let's head over to Denmark, where a recent crisis serves as a perfect and pretty stark case study. So a new villain enters the story here, a fungicide-resistant strain called EU43. And as you can see on this chart, its rise was just explosive. In 2018, it was barely a blip on the radar, not something to really worry about. But fast forward to 2022, and it made up nearly 2/3 of the entire blight population in the country. The enemy had evolved, and the old playbook was suddenly useless.
And this is the truly devastating part. Farmers were doing exactly what they were told. They were following the official, scientifically backed protocols for treating their fields, and they still suffered these massive widespread losses. So why? It's because the advice they were given was for a pathogen that was no longer the dominant threat. The system was just too slow to recognize that the world had fundamentally changed.
But here's the thing. The story doesn't end in disaster. What happened next in Denmark is incredibly instructive. It shows us how a crisis like this can be turned around when you change the institutional design, basically on the fly. Instead of some slow, bureaucratic process, the response was incredibly swift. An innovation hub flags the problem in August. A university confirms it by January. And this is the crucial part, a task force was immediately put together, bringing in academia, industry, and advisors with one clear mandate: act fast. And the results? They were absolutely stunning. Just look at this reversal. From that peak of 64% in 2022, the resistant strain was knocked down to just 20% a year later, and then all the way down to about 5% by 2024. This wasn't because of some brand new scientific breakthrough. This was an institutional breakthrough, a structure that could turn intelligence into action within a matter of weeks, not seasons. Okay, so Denmark's story is great, but what's the blueprint we can all take away from this? Their response gives us a model for how to build systems that are fast and flexible enough to actually keep up with modern threats. Now, this right here is super important. It gets at what's called the last kilometer problem, basically getting information to the people on the ground in a way they can actually use it. The slow model is just a relay. It passes along data, like a generic newsletter. The information is accurate, sure, but it's not adapted. The fast model, the one Denmark used, is a partnership. Expert advisors take the data, they interpret it for their specific local conditions, and they turn it into concrete, actionable advice. They translate before they transmit. And here's a tool that makes that speed possible: the provisional alert. This is a real game changer. It's a way to act on strong evidence before that slow, formal validation process is complete. It's not the final word, it's not perfect, but it is actionable guidance for a critical window when waiting is simply not an option. It's all about balancing scientific rigor with the desperate need for speed. So, how do you actually build a system that can do all this? Well, it really comes down to 4 key pillars. First, you need shared data standards so everyone is speaking the same language. Second, you need to define ahead of time who has the authority to make a call. Third, you need clear governance so everyone knows the rules. And finally, the system can't be a one-way street. You absolutely need feedback from the field so the network can learn and adapt. And this brings us to the final crucial takeaway. I mean, we've been talking about potatoes and blight this whole time, but this is really a lesson about how any complex system, whether it's in business or public health or government, copes with rapid change. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. When the evidence is staring you in the face, showing you that the old map no longer matches the territory, who in your world, your company, your community, your institution, has the authority to officially say so? And maybe more importantly, how fast can they get that new reality out to the people who actually need to act on it? Finding the answer to that, well, that's the real challenge.